Hey everyone, hope you're doing good. I've made some nice progress on the swamp decorating, so I thought I'd show you around. And yeah, so here we are. This is the very start. If you turn around in the very beginning, you can kind of see where we came from. I imagine that the knight, after that cutscene, leaving the forest into the swamp, I imagine he followed the river a little bit and then came across these smaller little pathways in the thicket and had to kind of rough it through there, and then eventually came out into this big opening. I've made a lot of use of the background trees. Usually I use the background trees like this, and they have kind of a nice canopy shape to them if you really inspect these like flat trees back here. And I figured since it's kind of a swamp with a lot of low brush and bushes and stuff, I kind of appropriated those things to make these bushes, and I think it works pretty well. I was actually going to make custom bush assets for the game as a whole because there aren't any bushes. But these actually work pretty well. I'm able to get some good mileage out of these. I've used them. You'll see them throughout the level as I show you around. But yeah, that's like a little thicket. You'd have to use a machete or something to get through. But the knight, he persevered through, came out into this nice opening here, and is finally kind of getting closer to the big swamp area. So let's just make our way through here. To introduce the player to the spores, I figured I'd just keep some spores right here, and maybe I'll have an obstacle. I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be just yet, but whatever the obstacle is for the spores to get through, I might just put it through here. I was kind of thinking like a miasma, like a particle effect. I also wanted to get kind of like a moldy, infected kind of texture as well. I have a few options for that already made. So this little portion here is going to be kind of like inhospitable. So as you walk through, you'll just die. I'll also make a screen effect that kind of comes in as you're slowly dying from the bad fungus or whatever, the infection. So hopefully that'll encourage people to just step over here and get the spore infection themselves, so that they're kind of immune to it as they walk through here. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking for this start, just to introduce the mechanics. So they'll be able to make it through this thicket here, and then once you make it through here, we actually get into the proper open swamp area. And this part here, since we're kind of still close to the forest, I figured I'd still include these giant trees here. The area that doesn't include these big trees later on, just as like a heads up, I'm a little over halfway done decorating, so I won't show you everything. Maybe I'm 70%, because I think the next area, just like I was saying, is not going to include a lot of trees. I won't be including as many like swamp stubs, these things here. That's all I can call them. I don't know what they're called. So it'll be a little easier to decorate. So it'll have its own vibe there. So that won't take me as long. So I'm imagining I'm 70, 80% done, considering there's not as much decoration to actually do in that latter half. I guess I'll show you it afterwards, but anyway. So yeah, you come out here. Hopefully you're kind of drawn to this big tower, because who's not drawn to big giant towers, right? Make your way over here. I will include lethal enemies in this area, so you'll have to watch your back as you walk through here. Maybe I'll hide some around behind trees and stuff. I've been thinking about the whole like first area and how kind of dull it is just walking through. And I've been thinking about adding some enemies into the first area that are kind of just for a little taste of enemies. So maybe non-lethal. Maybe they just attack you once and that's it. But just to give you a taste, just to know that there's a threat out there. I might go back there and add that in the first area somewhere. Just kind of like undead wandering around, maybe kind of harmless. Like when in early like Dark Souls areas, they're kind of easy to kill, or maybe even harmless, like little miners or something that don't actually attack you. Maybe something like that will be in the forest. But then once you get here, there's actually going to be some threat. And there'll be an underworld, spirit world, and everything that you'll have to navigate once you die. So yeah, you'll come to this tower. Hopefully you see a few things when you get here. You see like a little sparkle over there. You're like, oh, I can get over there somehow. Maybe you'll see a little pathway here and come over here. But I made this area kind of like covered in trash, like a bunch of driftwood and stuff clogged this little area here, so you can actually get through. And there's some dead spores there, dead mold, just decorating that area there. So yeah, hopefully with that you'll wander around a little more once you're here. A lot of these platforms in the swamp, you can actually just leap right down. I know I didn't train the player to ever think this way, but these cliffs here are low enough to where I figured you could just drop down anywhere. Oops, we'll hang up there. So yeah, you can drop down there, and then at this point, this is the second half of the swamp. It's not decorated yet, but I do have trees in there. We can go over there later, I guess. Actually, it's not really worth it. You guys saw screenshots and stuff already. There's a big gatehouse over there and stuff, so no real reason to show that at the moment. But there'll be a big miasma here that you just won't be able to get through without some spores. And there won't actually be any fungus out here. So you'll have to do a little wandering, and hopefully you'll be picking up some memory fragments or something, right? In the little corners, because you'll be rewarded for exploring. But eventually, hopefully you wind up over here. It's right next to the obstacle, so hopefully it's a lot more obvious. You'll wind up here, and we have like these trees kind of getting sucked into the center here. And what's going to be here is, I might have mentioned it before, but a sinkhole, or an area where if you stand, you'll sink in, and you'll actually end up underwater, in like an underwater cavern like space, which I haven't touched yet. I haven't even blocked it out yet. But just as like a hint, you'll need to traverse these underwater spaces. It's kind of like a network of underwater passages and stuff. I imagine it's going to look pretty cool and pretty creepy. So you'll get sucked in under there. There'll be a bunch of indicators here that something's happening. I'll have a bunch of visual tells. Maybe I'll have bubbles. Maybe I'll put ripples here. And I have these like floating barrels that I kind of want to add there too. There'll be definitely a point of interest, like it'll draw your eye. So hopefully. So you'll stand here, you'll start to sink, and the brave-hearted amongst us will stay and sink in all the way and be teleported to that underwater network. And using the underwater network, we can actually get past that big wall. Remember where all that trash was over there that I showed you, that like driftwood and stuff? That's actually a huge wall that you can't get through. You can't get through it without using the underwater passages. So it's over here. Let me show you from this angle. I'll actually zip over there once I'm done here. This area over here, this is also finished. Let me just actually, I'll stop the game. We'll do a little inside baseball here. I've got to like teleport the character. You'll wind up somewhere over here once you take the passage. It's not totally done. There's going to be some spores here. There's going to be some fungus here. But this area is also finished. So let's take a little walk in here. All right, so you'll pop up here. There'll be another like obstacle here, another miasma or fungus infection thing. So you'll grab the fungus from here, you'll step through, and you'll be in this other open swamp area where you can explore. And there's a bunch of little crevices and little cavities where you can walk through. It's really just kind of another big open area to encounter enemies. And if you're outgoing, you can search for the memory fragments. Maybe you'll recognize the tower. You'll make your way over here towards the tower. And this part here is where that little memory fragment was. So you can step up over here, grab the memory fragment if you like, if you're interested in that. Yes, let's have it. Cool. And you can also drop down here, which might be frustrating for people. But I wanted to leave a little way to access the first area to allow people to experiment with the fungus they might find here in this side. So imagine, like, there are going to be a couple areas where there's fungus growing over here in this corner. And if someone's creative, they can be like, oh, what if I just take this fungus, run over to the other side as fast as I can, and try to make it through that that obstacle at the beginning to just skip this whole area next. So that's a potential. I don't know if you'll be able to make it necessarily. It depends on how much you time it and how much fungus there is. But there'll be fungus here. That's why it's kind of empty right now. But anyways, once you make it on this side, you have another little obstacle to overcome. You need fireflies to get through this part. And now I'm wondering if I actually put fireflies in here. I forgot that was there. So let me just give myself some fireflies. Hold on a second. And then I'll also teleport the character. I think okay, there's fireflies right here. So I didn't need to do that. But anyway. So you'd grab those fireflies, and you'd come over here, right back to where we were. I'm just going to teleport myself. Okay. Actually, you know what? I'm totally spacing out on the actual like progression. I think you take another underwater passage on this side, and you end up here in this little corner. And then if you decide to, you can come back through and disperse those moths. So anyway, it's going to be a little confusing for a while for me because this area is so big, but it's no big deal. So yeah, you end up over here eventually, and you find this like little thicket again here. And I really love these boats, like sticking these boats in places here, because it just suits the area, and it also just makes it gives you just a nice kind of abandoned feel for this area. Things that people forget about or things that go missing. it all kind of collects here and washes up here. Anyway, we end up in this thicket. We make our way out and we see another tower. That's cool. I'm leading the player around with towers. This is kind of a portion that's above the swamp a little bit, so we kind of return to our forest feel. But hopefully the player will look up here and be like, oh, there's some fireflies. And so now the player knows they have to go there at some point. I won't go up. We can visit there, I guess. I don't want to show everything. Let's go up there. I'm only halfway down with the map anyway, so there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff that I have yet to make. So I'll show you up there. But anyway, you come around here, and the critical path is in this direction. You just continue on this way. But if you want to go back and get those fireflies, you may. And there's also another treat up there as well, up by the tower. And now we have arrived at like a little lookout outpost thing. So we have some sign of humanity here with these boxes and crates and carriages and stuff. Big lookout tower and a nice little vantage point up here. We also find a little pensive undead. Maybe he decided to take a rest here because maybe he used to serve as a lookout or something. You can create your own narrative there. But why don't we help him out and give him the soul and help him pass on to the next realm. And from here, you get a nice little view. I think that's kind of cool that we can get some cool views in here. I don't really like that there's a lot of clipping in this area, though. If you look in the corner, you can see. But maybe people won't notice. Anyway. Drop down quite a ways. And then we make it to our firefly spot. I don't think we can... Yeah, our lantern's full, so we can't do anything there. So we drop down again. We're back where we started. And we can continue the next little spot that I made. That's kind of a little point of interest. So let's check that out. So yes, here we have another little dip down into the swamp. But this time we see a bunch of dead fish and stuff on the ground, which I've been waiting so long to actually use that asset, the dead fish asset. I just think it's a cool imagery, just all these dead fish, as if the water's become poison. I actually remember back when I was a kid living in Massachusetts, we lived near a bunch of farmland. And one of the farms was actually on a river. And sometimes that river would overflow. I think it was in the spring when all the snow would melt and stuff. Sometimes that river would just overflow into the farmland because it was kind of low along the river. And so a bunch of fish would escape into the field because it was completely submerged. But as it started to dry, the fish would get stranded in these little puddles. And I remember I'd visit there sometimes because my dad had friends who'd go there and take advantage of the fish there and fish while those fish were just stranded in those little puddles, kind of literally shooting fish in a barrel, taking advantage because there'd be these big fish in there just trapped because the water was lowering. Anyway, so while they were doing that over there, I would just be walking around in this muddy farmland and be seeing all these fish corpses just like lying along the riverbed. And it was just such a creepy imagery, but it was still interesting to me. I mean, maybe like a morbid curiosity, seeing all these decaying dead fish just lying all around. Something about that piqued my interest enough to where I would kind of like walk around and explore and just check out all the different fish. You don't really get to see fish that often. So maybe that was part of the appeal there. But it was just kind of a creepy, ominous, smelly, but also morbidly interesting kind of thing. And I think maybe that's where I got this idea, is just having that experience. But seeing fish washed up on a shore like this, you just imagine, man, the water must not be very tasty. Maybe there's poison in the water. Maybe they got infected by the mold or the fungus or whatever. Anyway, so yeah, you come down here. This is the next point of interest that I'm kind of pretty happy with, is this little cottage here. I'm going to put a bunch more of these in the next area, which is out there, to kind of show we're on the outskirts of a kingdom. There's going to be a castle coming up pretty soon, a castle town. Actually, next will be a farm. Speaking of farms, the next area is going to be a big farmland. So we'll see what we do with that. You come out of the swamp and into kind of a farmland. Maybe I was inspired by that story to associate the two, a swampy farm. Anyway, so yeah, there'll be a bunch of these cottages kind of sinking into the swamp as we go along into the next area. I think it's kind of a cool imagery just to see that. So basically, that's kind of where I'm at with the level design. I think maybe I've done a little bit over here. This is another area with moths that you're going to need to collect a bunch of moths to get through. Oh, look at what we have here. Let's just see. I don't know if I've been over here. Yeah, okay, so I haven't actually been out here to decorate. I've added these trees, but that's about it. So this part, actually you know what? I don't think you can have enough fireflies to get through here yet. I think this is supposed to be a tease. This is supposed to be like you look through and you see something that you want over there, and you just have to remember it for later. Because the next part is actually getting the fungus and passing through an infection right here into this big open area. And this is going to be like a classic kind of wetlands, lowlands kind of area where you got to get through one way or another. I think I'm going to put like a big giant creepy tree in here. I've got a really cool tree I want to put. That'll be kind of the focus point. And then from there, I'll lead the player with like little fires. Like, you know how some swamps are depicted with the little flames kind of in them because they're releasing like the fossil fuel gases or whatever from underneath the swamp. I think here I'm going to be leading the player around with something like that, with like little flames that you can follow. Since we're here, this is the unfinished part. So since we're here, I'm just going to teleport the player to the very end, to the gatehouse, so you can see what that looks like. So actually here, I can show you what the layout looks like. Okay, this is the wetlands that we were just walking around in just now. This is that barrier, and there'll be a passage that'll take you across the barrier, underneath the barrier, into this second area. It's going to be another wetlands area. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen in here. Anyway, so you'll make it here somehow. You'll eventually walk up this, I believe, and then you can come to this like little gatehouse here and realize it's locked, and then you'll see the campfire is going to be in this little place here. But the tenacious of you will continue on and walk backwards, do a little backtracking back here, and maybe find something interesting. But that's all unfinished as of now, so let's just check out the gatehouse, the way it looks. I think it looks pretty cool with all the trees. Let's take a look. So you'll come up here, maybe I'll have some more fishes and stuff, dead fishes washed up here. But this is reconvening with the road. So you'll actually see a gate here, because I don't want you walking back here. There's nothing back here. There'll be a gate there, just like we've been seeing, kind of blocking the road. This is kind of an indication that you are getting closer to somewhere, because you are following the road after all this, just in a long roundabout way. But I think this is really cool, the way the sun lined up with this this gate here. Gatehouse is blocked. Not going to be able to make it through there. And so you got to come over here, walk through this kind of scrub area, and make it to the fireplace. That's going to be out here. So somewhere in here I'll have, maybe this is too big actually. This looks like a campground, doesn't it? It's a bit large for just a fireplace. Maybe I'll make this smaller. Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at now. It's taking quite a while considering it's not a forest. It's not really as much trees, but I think it being barren is making it difficult to feel satisfied with just a few assets here and there. So we'll see how I do in the wetlands. The wetlands are supposed to be a bit easier since it's just water really, and maybe some bushes. And I can't remember exactly how long it took me to the forest. Maybe it took me the same amount of time, but this area is quite a bit bigger just in its broadness. It's not as, I don't think it'll take you as long to get through as the first area, but it's definitely broader because it's wide and everything. But yeah, hopefully, I think this week I can probably get it to a point where I'm satisfied with the decoration and the somewhat finished with the scripting of the fungus and everything. And I think the following week I'm going to start to develop the mechanic for sinking, because I got to do a little animation for as the player is sinking. I got to do a little scripting, and then oh man, I still have to do the underwater canals, so hopefully that doesn't take me too long. I'm picturing them being similar to the depths in the first area. The depths were pretty linear, just straight and narrow passages. So we'll see how that turns out. Hopefully I can save a lot of time just making the depths pretty simple. So yeah, hopefully not too much longer on this environment. I really want to get to the next environment already. I'm sick of the swamp. That was quick, wasn't it? I was so sick of the forest. Now I'm sick of the swamp. That's just how it goes, I guess. But I'm excited to get to the farmland, just on the other side of that gate. So yeah, I guess that's it. That was my show and tell. That's quite a while. Hopefully I can edit this down. So yeah, that's my little show and tell, the swamp. I hope you like to see it. If I forgot to mention anything, I'll add it down below in the body of the post there for you. But for now, that's it. Just got some more decorating to do, a little scripting here and there, and I'll start working on the underground. Yeah, plenty of stuff to work on afterwards. So looking forward to all that stuff. Hopefully you stick around to join me. And yeah, I will talk to you all soon. Thanks for watching.